Hi, Claudia. Thank you so much for meeting me today.
Thanks so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure. And I was really looking forward to our chat.
Yeah, we had to reschedule it. So I'm glad we found a time because we're like complete opposite ends of the world. So it's really good. I really
I
wanted
know it blows my mind. You're starting your day and I'm finishing mine.
Yeah,
It's still incredible. I can't get used to it.
it is weird, isn't it? It's like you've already experienced time that I've not experienced yet.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to talk about pregnancy, postpartum, and HA and your kind of journey because I find that really interesting. And yet pivoting from obviously having HA and then being pregnant and how that completely impacts you. So do you want to start first of all with just letting us know who you are and what you do?
Well, my name is Claudia, and I am a nutrition and dietetic consultant, and I specialize in women's health, hormonal health, and especially hypothalamic amenorrhea. I see clients one-on-one online and also in my private clinic. And I also offer online programs, and I've just created the HA community, which is especially for women suffering from hypothalamic amenorrhea.
Amazing.
And I have also two programs. One is for nourished mamas, so for the postpartum phase, and another one is for women going through hypothalamic amenorrhea. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. So ones that is the nourished mother ones for just people that have gone through HA or just in general mothers?
Just in general, because I realized when going through the postpartum phase that there was really not much about it online. Actually, there was nothing at all. There was simply focus on the postpartum mothers. Everything was focused on the child and the fact that, you know, how to take care of a child after the first few months and after the first few weeks, actually. And so I decided to concentrate on supporting women through the fourth trimester. But thankfully, things have changed. And now, if you look at the postpartum phase online, you can actually find lots of programs and lots of women that are going to be able to support, which is really reassuring because finally people are understanding how important it is to take care of the mother even before the child itself.
For sure. And even like postpartum depression is quite like feeling blue is quite a big thing. My friend's just recently had a baby and she felt quite blue and a bit depressed after. Do you think even like food has a impact on that? Or is it just more
Absolutely. On top of it, you just mentioned feeling blue. So there is something that is called the postpartum blues that it's very different from postpartum depressions. But because the women don't know what to expect in the first few weeks after giving birth, they think that they're going through depression, but in reality, they're just feeling blue because of a crash of hormones, which normally happens 2 days after giving birth and it lasts for 2 weeks or so. Whereas postpartum depressions can appears at any time within the first 12 months. So maybe you have had a child for 6 months and all of a sudden you're feeling really down and you don't think that it's postpartum depression because come on, you had the child 6 months ago, so you should be fine by now. But the sleep deprivation, the lack of nourishment, that can really impact a woman's brain. And also something else that is not even that recognized, or it wasn't until a few years ago, was postpartum anxiety, which is a real thing. And it's like feeling anxious all the time, unable to sleep, unable to function. And still there was really no support for a woman around that.
Is that because of the drop in progesterone? Because obviously the corpus, was it because of the corpus luteum and the drop in progesterone, which affects anxiety? Is that why?
Is the drop in progesterone, but especially the drop in estrogen and also the raise in prolactin. And also the oxytocin is slowly released from your body because you don't need it as much. Actually, it comes back to your body because you need to bond with your child. Okay. So all these chemical imbalance that goes on in your body, but also in your brain, you can imagine it's like being on a roller coasters of hormones for like a few weeks or even a few months. And that can definitely impact the brain of a postpartum mother. And on top of it, you just have to take into consideration the fact that the mother is exposed to a human being that she has never met before. And now she can not leave the house, that she cannot function without that human being constantly attached to her. And there is sleep deprivation involved, the stress of breastfeeding, and as we said before, lack of nourishment, because maybe it's lunchtime, but your child doesn't want to go to sleep and it's having a rough time. So normally you're hungry at 12 o'clock and you end up feeding yourself at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's also the blood sugar crash and all of it. These are all things that we need to take into consideration when talking to postpartum mothers.
Yeah.
And remember also that the child sucks everything out of you. So your calcium reserves, your iron, all the vitamins, all the minerals. And normally we just take all of that for granted.
Yeah, we put ourselves underneath our child, don't we? Usually as priority. It's so hard, really, when you think about it. All these different, I never really thought about it, like all these hormones that are changing. And then, yeah, you've got this child that you need to look after 24/7. It is quite a tough time. Do you want to,
it is a tough time.
I was going to say, before we dive more into that, can I hear about your story, about what kind of brought you here? Because I actually, as well, don't know. So I'm super interested about how you've kind of come into this world, really.
Yeah, sure. So basically, I am 40 this year. So I'm about to turn 40 in 2 months. I feel 15, and but my body doesn't disagree with me entirely. So I got married when I was 29. And we wanted to have a child basically by the age of 30. And unfortunately, I didn't have a menstrual cycle. I couldn't get pregnant. And I saw lots of doctors and everyone really dismissed me. And they said, oh, you have PCOS. You just have to take the pill to fix your hormones. You know, like those kind of stories that you have heard before, I'm pretty sure. And so no one really talked to me about hypothalamic amenorrhea for the first 5 years. So my conception window was delayed by 5 years simply because I was misdiagnosed with a condition that normally you treat in a completely different way. So with PCOS, normally women are told to, go on a low carb diet, exercise more, which is exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
Exactly. In my case, I just needed to rest and eat, and I was not doing that. Plus, I was really getting stressed out because they were telling me that my ovaries were lazy, that I was infertile.
Right.
Yeah, seriously. And I really wanted to have a child. So the only thing that I could control was my body, which is why I restricted my calories. I was following a very regimented diet. I used to be a runner, so I would go for a run every day, even if I was injured. I was working full time, studying part time. So it was a lot. And then finally I decided to, and there was no support, so I felt really lonely. And that's also why I am in this environment at the moment, because I'm trying to protect other women to feeling that level of loneliness and the level of despair that I felt. Yeah.
Very lonely during that time, especially if you don't know what's going on. Like you said, I didn't know about hypothalamic amenorrhea either, and the doctors didn't even mention it to me. They even told me to carry on exercising for my mental health. So yeah, it's really hard. How did you find out that you actually had HA then?
Lots of reading, lots of research. So basically back at that time, I was a marketing manager in the travel industry, but I was studying to become a dietitian. So I had access to all this research and these beautiful studies that were published online. And I started reading until I thought, okay, this sounds a little bit more like me. So possibly this is me then. And I got in contact with a beautiful dietitian that used to live in New Zealand. And unfortunately, she passed away last year. And she was the one that actually helped me out to identify what was going on with me and how to get out of my situation. And obviously, I had to gain a lot of weight because back then I was really undernourished. I had to stop running. I didn't stop exercising completely, but I had to obviously cut down all the running, all the interval training. And we were blessed to finally get pregnant within the first 5 tries. So that was kind of nothing short of a miracle, really. And I had my baby, but unfortunately, during my pregnancy, I suffered from hyperemesis gravidarum,
Okay.
which I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No, I don't know what that is.
So basically, it's a situation that happens to 15% of pregnant women, which is a really high number. And you end up vomiting up to 25 to 30 times a day for the duration of the pregnancy.
Wow.
Yeah. And
how are you getting your food then? Is that why this nourishment has come about as well? Because all of your...
Well, you end up in hospital.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So you basically cannot leave the house. You cannot function. Sometimes they give you a very high level of corticosteroids just to keep you alive. And you are like in bed until you feel better. That sometimes can be 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. It was 2 months in my situation. And you are fed via through tubes, basically.
Yeah.
So it was a really harsh experience because I wanted the baby so much. And then all of a sudden, I had to basically stop my life to be in bed for a few months. But it was a blessing in disguise because it taught me how to slow down entirely. So anyway, that was my pregnancy, had my baby. And then unfortunately, I suffered from postpartum anxiety, which was caused by, again, undernourishment because I was already partially undernourished before getting pregnant.
Okay.
Then hyperemesis gravidarum happened. And then my baby arrived. She wasn't sleeping at night. She was crying throughout the day. I developed postpartum anxiety. And then I went back to controlling my body the way that I knew how to do it. So I started restricting myself again. I started exercising again. And my cycle didn't come back. 15 months after having my baby, yeah, no cycle to be seen.
Okay.
But the second time around, I knew what to do.
I was going to say, you know what to do now.
Exactly. So I went back, fixed myself. I started nourishing again. I started sleeping. I stopped training. And I felt pregnant with my second baby by surprise. So it was completely unplanned. It was most beautiful surprise. And after going through HA recovery twice, I promised myself to never again. I don't want to have to go through recovery again because I'm pretty sure that you know how time consuming and overwhelming and challenging it can be at times. It's very rewarding, but it's very draining as well.
Yeah, it really tests your patience, don't it? Like mentally challenging. Yeah, for sure. You've got to have a lot of trust as well through a lot of it. Wow, that's really interesting. So with your second pregnancy, you was absolutely fine. You didn't have this, I can't say the word, but vomiting excessively.
So hyperemesis gravidarum, which you can say HG. So instead of HA is HG.
Okay.
So very similar but different. And unfortunately, yes, and it was even worse.
No.
Yeah, but
So
it lasted for a short.
Genetics?
They don't know. They normally say that it's more likely when you're pregnant with a girl, but then the second time around, I was pregnant with a boy. Sometimes they say it's genetic. My mom and my sisters, they were absolutely fine.
Okay.
So they really don't know.
Oh, that's so annoying. Oh, okay.
Very annoying, which is why I'm telling you now, shop is closed. There are no more children coming for me.
Yeah.
I was blessed with 2 and that's it.
Oh, so I'm assuming going through HA and going through it the first time, did that make your pregnancy a little bit easier, as in gaining weight aspect of pregnancy, maybe like the eating for 2 that people talk about, or do you still think it was quite hard? Because you did say you wasn't that nourished as well.
Yeah, with my first pregnancy, it was really tough because with hyperemesis gravidarum, you get afraid of eating because every single time that you eat, you vomit or you experience nausea, and there is this never-ending nausea. So the first time around, I really struggled to nourish myself. And I remember like checking my caloric intake just to make sure that I ate the bare minimum, and I couldn't get to that point even. So that was really hard. And I remember walking a lot because I was trying to do something healthy for myself, but it wasn't really the best thing to do at the same time. So I was kind of cheating just because I felt so lost, so out of control. So as I said before, I was reverting to all my old behaviors. And so that was my first pregnancy. That didn't happen with the second pregnancy. With the second pregnancy, I knew exactly that I couldn't afford to go back and check my caloric intake and exercise and so on and so forth if I wanted to be a nourished mother and a sane mother for my two children.
So now you've obviously got these children. Do you feel like you change how? Well, do you feel like it's influenced you positively how you act around them, around food, maybe movement, anything like that? Do you feel like it's really helped you get involved with the children in a positive way and not reflect a diet culture on them?
Absolutely. And it has changed me in the most beautiful way. And I have a daughter, so I know that daughters normally they can start like talking about diet and checking their weight from the age of 4. And she's turning for this. Yeah, it's shocking.
Just from
so I've seen
just from people talking
because
around them.
Absolutely. And if you allow them to watch TV, if you allow them to be exposed to magazines, which obviously they are immersed in diet culture, if the mom talks about her belly or the fact that she needs to exercise to lose the weight, or that she can't have the pizza, but it's better to have the salad because it's healthier, like this kind of conversation that I'm pretty sure that your mom and all the people around you had back in the past.
Yeah.
Of course, you are exposed to diet culture every single day. So going through HA and going through 2 tough pregnancies completely changed that for me. So in the house, we don't watch TV, we don't buy magazines. There is no food. There aren't bad or good foods on the table. There is just food. And sometimes, for example, I give my daughter like a plate and she has a little bit of pasta, a little bit of veggies, and a little bit of muffin. So I don't want to make a distinction between the muffin is actually a treat food that you get if you eat your broccoli. It's just there for you. If you like it, you can start with the muffin and then you can have the broccoli and then the pasta. And it's completely up to her to do whatever she wants. Yeah. And sometimes she comes to me and she asks me for cashews as a snack. Sometimes she asks me for cookies, because it's all about what she feels like having. It's not about like having the chocolate because it's a treat and normally she's not allowed to. And I think that the most beautiful thing that happened to me is that now when I'm with them, I am really with them. Back in the past, I was overly consumed with food thoughts, and I had to make sure that I exercised during the day. I had to make sure that I pushed the pram for at least 50 minutes so I could get my walk in.
Really?
And now I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, even thinking
about
it was the heaviness of that.
Exactly. And I see so many women going through that. Some of them are aware of their behaviors. Some of them aren't, because we are exposed to diet culture, as we said before, and we normalize this kind of behaviors, which are not really normal, because a mom postpartum should be resting at least for the first 40 days. She shouldn't really leave the house within the first 3 days to start pushing the pram uphill to get the body back.
Yeah.
Because that's yeah.
Do you feel like it's kind of, I suppose, in a way forced on you to lose the baby weight? People always talk about losing baby weight. Do you feel like that's kind of like a force on people that have had a baby? And how did you even deal with that?
I made it very clear that comments on my body were not welcome at any point in time, especially because there is something that women are not told by anyone, and I don't know why that is, but after you give birth, your body doesn't really change much. So your body looks pregnant for at least another couple of months, but you have like a pregnant belly. And so, of course, can you imagine being a woman that has just given birth, and it doesn't matter if it's a natural birth or a cesarean birth, it's still a very invasive situation.
Mm-hmm.
And your body's sore, there is blood. You possibly don't like yourself because you have a pregnant belly, but your baby's out of your belly.
Mm-hmm.
You have to deal with breastfeeding, and sometimes the milk comes, sometimes it doesn't, and it's a real struggle and it's a real challenge. You stop sleeping, something that you used to do until 2 days before with no problem. Now it's impossible. And if you look at the next few months in front of you, you don't know when you're going to be able to sleep for more than 3 hours. And on top of it, people around you remind you that you don't look that well. That, you should start losing the weight and you start exercising, so then you look better. And I think that it's really forced on women nowadays. And yeah, it definitely still is. And sometimes you look at Instagram and social medias, and there are all these beautiful moms showcasing a postpartum body, which is excellent. But pick a random magazine. And at the end of the day, if you summarize the literature, they're still telling you need to get your body back and you need to lose weight. And just an exciting news.
Like you said, you do see people like, oh, before pregnancy or whatever, then I don't know, a few weeks after, and they're just like snapped back or whatever. You don't really see the other side. I didn't know it takes that long for your whole body to recuperate and heal, like you just said as well. But it makes so much sense, but you're just not really shown that, I suppose. We're not exposed.
No, not at all. And sometimes you're left with a big belly, with a pregnant belly, but it's not your belly, it's actually your uterus, which is very close to your stomach. And it takes 6 weeks for it to go back down to its place. So you can't really eliminate that, No. And also, like, if you look at the royal family, they show you Kate Middleton leaving the hospital after 2 days with this beautiful makeup, beautiful hair, and absolutely looking wonderful. And you wonder, I know that you are the royal family and you have to show yourself as being perfect all the time, but it's the best thing to do for all the women, all the girls.
Setting
looking at you right now. Yeah.
Exactly.
But the good news is that you don't need to get your body back because your body hasn't gone anywhere.
No.
It's just the 2.0, the updated version.
Yeah, because my friend, like I said, is just giving birth and she gets quite down about her body. And I'm like, it's not going to probably look the same, and that's fine. Like, and her stretch marks. And I'm like, that is amazing. You've had a baby. Like, it's totally normal. But it just, I suppose it's what you consume and everything. It just really, same with HA, it just really gets to you, doesn't it? Everything that you consume gets in your subconscious, and it's really hard.
Absolutely. And when it comes to the stretch marks, embrace them. They're beautiful.
And they're so normal.
You made a baby.
Yeah.
They're normal.
Yeah, like your belly was obviously a lot bigger. Like, of course it's going to happen. So do you think that it's optimal, I've written here as well, to wait a few recovery periods before even trying to get pregnant? Because I know some people catch the first ovulation, don't they? They don't even have a period. Do you think it's optimal, or it doesn't really matter?
I encourage women to wait for at least 3 periods and to make sure that the luteal phase is longer than 10 days.
Yes.
Simply because there is a higher chance of miscarriage if the luteal phase is shorter than 10 days. Yeah. And you really don't want to go through miscarriage if you can avoid it, because it's a very painful situation to deal with. So I know that lots of women that are going through the HA recovery process, they want to get pregnant and they're really eager to give it a try as soon as they see a bleed. But I normally encourage them to wait just a bit longer, because 1 month, 3 months is not going to make a huge difference in the big scheme. But then it's going to give you the opportunity of enjoying a better pregnancy.
And like you'll be in a much better mental state. I see that if people recover a bit too quickly, if there is such a way as quickly, sometimes they are physically recovered, but they're not mentally recovered at all. And they still have a lot of restrictions and tendencies. It's kind of a bit of like a luck of the draw that they got their period in a way. And then they might miss their next period and things like that. So it's good to be mentally recovered as well, don't you think, to then get pregnancy, go through pregnant life.
And I think that absolutely, and getting mentally recovered takes quite a long time.
Yeah.
And as I normally say to all the women that work with me, it's not that I don't have thoughts about, I don't have disorder eating thoughts or disorder behaviors in general, but I just simply decide not to act on them every single day. So it takes a huge amount of time to get completely mentally free from any thoughts. It is possible, but yeah, get yourself physically recovered. Just give yourself a space to start to get mentally recovered and then get pregnant. Because with pregnancy, your body's going to change dramatically for the rest of your life. And that can be very, very triggering for women that suffer from HA for a long period.
Yeah, I totally agree. Do you think that, just popped into my head as well, do you think that your first HA recovery was harder than your second HA recovery was harder than your first?
No, it was actually easier and quicker, but when I recognized it, because in the beginning I was like, oh, I'm too busy, that's why I don't have the period, I'm still breastfeeding, I'm spreading myself too thin, but it's fine. But as soon as I recognize it, no, hang on a second, this is what is going on, we're gonna fix it. Then within 3 months, I was fine. It was just more annoying. I was frustrated on myself because I thought, oh, here we are again. That's boring. I don't want to do it again.
Yeah, so you need to take that time. I'm assuming.
Yeah, it was.
Sorry, I was assuming that it's probably reasonably easy then to fall back into HA once you've had it, got pregnant, because of the stress, because of the not sleeping as much, because of the running around and you can barely fit in lunch. I guess you can easily fall into those habits. I don't know if you know a percentage, like, is it quite, do you see that happen quite a bit?
There is really no percentage. There are no statistics about postpartum women falling back into HA at all. Like anywhere you look online, they don't talk about it. Like sometimes GPs, doctors are quite shocked that postpartum women suffer from hypothalamic amenorrhea because they don't even think that it's possible because they already had a baby,
right?
Which is frustrating and shocking at the same time. But in my situation, my personal situation, I did fall into HA because of a very stressful situation. So every single time that I found myself being anxious or stressed out, I would use the behaviors, which is why when I suffer from postpartum anxiety, I went back to that. So it's not common for everyone to feel stressed and then restricting or overtraining, but it can definitely happen.
What were your like top coping mechanisms? Was it just to pull back on food or exercise a little bit more, things like that? What were the things that kept you in that little vicious cycle?
The things that kept me in the vicious cycle was like eating less, definitely eating less. So restricting my caloric intake, especially throughout the day. And training fasted every morning.
Oh, okay.
Because it was my way out to distress after a sleep-deprived night.
Yeah. Okay.
So as I said, I was just cheating. I was lying to myself because I wasn't even lying to the people around me. I was really lying to myself, which was really frustrating.
Okay, that's interesting. Is there anything else that you think that would be good to bring up about postpartum and even pregnancy and HA all combined?
Well, talking about postpartum, yes, because lots of women, when they get pregnant, they start thinking about how to get ready for the pregnancy. Then when it's the second trimester and they feel great, they start looking at, okay, it's almost time to give birth. So let's prepare the bag to go to the hospital. Let's talk about which kind of birth I wanna give. But no one really talks about how to prepare postpartum, which is the toughest part, especially for a first-time mom, because until then you have been an individual. You have been always by yourself. So yes, maybe you have a partner, but if you wanted to leave the house and do something, you were allowed to do so. And then all of a sudden you're in hospital for 3 days. Everyone is concerned about you. They just want to make sure that you're fine. And then that's it. The medical team disappears. Yeah. You go home to a house where everyone is there for the first week, maybe if you're lucky, and everyone wants to know about your baby. No one asks you anything.
About you,
They don't, even your birth experience, which it's really traumatic for some women. It's traumatic for every woman from a bodily perspective, but mentally can be also traumatic for some women. And there is also a grieving period from being the woman that you were before, from becoming a mom. And
similar to HA in a way, I suppose. You have to kind of, in a way, grieve the old version of you that wasn't healthy. You thought you were fit or whatever, but you have to grieve that part of you as well. So the same way. And even like you said about the birthing story, I remember my friend in depth telling me everything, and I think she was kind of excited to tell me and someone to listen, like fully listen to her, which is really important. I think that they've gone through a massive experience. They need to literally tell you everything and for someone to actually listen.
Absolutely. And it's like, if you have a car crash, and not good, is not ever going to happen, but if you go through that experience, everyone is going to ask you, so what happened? How did it go? How are you feeling? But then if you give birth, which can last even to up to 24 hours, and you go through a lot during those 24 hours.
A lot on your body,
no one really wants to know. Even your partner, if you're lucky that your partner is there, great, but sometimes the partner cannot even be there, and they don't really pay that much attention because there is a baby that needs you right now. So okay, you gave birth, so many women have done it back in the past. Let's talk about the baby, let's move on, and let's talk about the rest of our life. But also, if you look back until 50 years ago, women after giving birth, they were invited not to do anything. They were supported by the extended family. They were supported by the community. And nowadays, we are by ourselves. If we're lucky, the partner gets like a parental leave. If you're lucky, you get to stay home 3 months from work. And no one really asks you how the birthing experience went. And you just have to snap out of it pretty quickly.
So that can kind of probably feel lonely too, just like HA. There's probably some similarities there with what you go through. And even like you said about anxiety and things like that, there's probably quite a few things, which I suppose having gone through HA in a way is kind of beneficial because you've been through these things. Like you've had these kind of hormonal imbalances in a way as well. Maybe these anxieties, maybe these sleepless nights because you were really hungry too and had trouble sleeping. I don't know, it kind of in a way prepares you as well, maybe? Or am I looking at it in a weird way?
No, actually, now that you mention it, and you put it very beautifully, because your body changes and you need to adapt. Your hormones change and you need to adapt to that.
Absolutely. You say it better.
But also, HA gave me lots of tools that I can use when feeling anxious. So it changed my mindset entirely. And so all those tools I actually used, especially after my second pregnancy, when I was a little bit smarter. So I think that hypothalamic amenorrhea for me was a blessing in disguise, and it really supported my postpartum experience, especially the second time around. Because this time I made sure to nourish myself. So I had an abundant milk supply. My baby, when he was born, it was the right weight. And within 4 months, he was already 10 kilos, which means that he was ginormous because my milk was rich of all the right nutrients. And plus, I'm not tired. I went back to work almost right away. First, because I love my job, but secondly, because I had plenty of energy and I was ready to get going.
You did it all the right way.
Exactly. But I learned it the hard way. The first time around wasn't that easy, so I learned it the hard way, and the second time around I did it in a much easier way.
But now
let's put it like
the great thing is now we can like spread the message about it. So yeah, it's a good way. Now you can give it to other people, that information.
Absolutely. In the postpartum phase, just prioritize your health, nourish as if there was no tomorrow. Don't even think about going back to the gym. If you want, just walk, but walk slowly and gently. Doesn't even have to be every day. Expose your skin to the sun, get out, meet people, nap when your baby sleeps. And I know that everyone tells you that, and you're like, but there are things to be done in the house.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Just sleep. You can clean your house in a month. Nothing horrible is going to happen.
Which is why
you're going to be
HA might have helped there, because with HA you're always on the go. You're always like, well, I definitely was, and I see that a lot with clients, that you always want to get things done. And so if there was a mess, like that needed to go straight away. I can't sit down. But if you've got over those rigid mindset, you might be a bit more like, there's a mess over there and it's fine. Like I've dealt with it before in HA and now I don't need to do it again while I'm just had a baby, kind of thing.
Absolutely. And I remember that the first time around, as soon as my baby went to sleep, I would squeeze in an exercise session, like a 30 minutes interval training session, or I would clean up the house. Right. This time around, I'm like, okay, which kind of snack can I have before putting my feet up?
Yes.
And you enjoy so much more. And also the bonding with your baby, it's so different.
Yeah, I can totally imagine that. Do you also with like breastfeeding, there's a lot of calories for that, isn't there? It consumes a lot of calories, you breastfeeding, right? So you have to think about that as well, that you need to be eating as well when you're breastfeeding, even more so, right?
Absolutely. So breastfeeding can burn up between 500 to 1,000 calories per day.
Wow.
Which I know, it's like going to the gym for a very hardcore session every single day. And plus it's very, very dehydrating. So normally for a woman that wants to breastfeed and wants to make sure that she keeps up with the milk supply, there is the need of at least adding one extra meal or 2 snacks a day, plus drinking more than 1 liter of water on top of what she would normally drink, basically. Okay. It's like a marathon. So you really have to be on top of it. And plus, the good thing is that when you're breastfeeding, you are starving. You start, especially the first few months, you're constantly ravenous.
Yeah.
So
similar, you could be similar again with HA, with the extreme
hunger.
Yes. There's a lot of same.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there are, now that you're pinpointing them, there are lots of similarities which I haven't even thought about, but absolutely. And I think that going through HA teaches you a lot about resilience, about patience, and about the importance of prioritizing your health and the importance of slowing down, smell the roses, because nothing dramatic is going to happen. Yeah. Even if you don't exercise for a month, your body's barely going to notice that.
Yeah, I learned that through the HA, like gaining my period back. I stopped exercise for over a year, and I was exercising about 4 times a week, doing weight training and a little bit of HIIT every now and then. And I completely cut it out for a whole year. And yeah, like I still lived. Like it's absolutely fine. You think the worst is going to happen, but yeah, you can totally do it.
And let me ask you, just simply because I'm very curious. So during that year, what did you do instead of weight training? Did you go for walks or did you go for swims?
Just a walk, because I have 2 dogs, so I would always go for a walk anyway. And I was doing yoga as well, but I was still not doing anything intensely. I wasn't going for super long walks. I kept them like under an hour, 45 minutes kind of thing. And then a little tiny bit of yoga again, like 20 minutes, nothing too drastic. And I think mine was a lot of mental stress, which sometimes I feel like people don't put as much emphasis on, but I really think it was that for me. I was normal weight and I did need to gain weight, even though I was normal weight. and the exercise aspect, but for the mental, like I was just stressed out about everything. And everyone that I spoke to, friends wise, they was always like, you're just stressed. It's your mental stress. I just know it is. Obviously it was a little bit of combination with the others. And and I've even noticed since getting my period back and having months and months and months of periods, that like about 2 months ago, my ovulation was like ridiculous. It kept running away from me because I was a bit stressed out. And that was like a 66-day cycle or something. I just know I'm so sensitive to any stress. So
Yeah, I think that after you go through hypothalamic amenorrhea, you really need to be careful and take care of your body for at least 3 good years before allowing yourself to stress out more than others or to undernourish yourself a little bit. So you always have to be on top of it. That's what I've noticed. And also something else that I would like to underline, especially if you are thinking about having a child, or if you are pregnant, or if you have had a baby and you suffer from hypothalamic amenorrhea before, pay attention to your bone health. Because I know that so many women, they're like, oh yeah, bone health, we just want to make sure that we don't get osteopenia, osteoporosis, but it looks so far away from you. So something that you can't even see or touch, so it doesn't even feel real. But if you breastfeed, all the calcium goes to your baby. And I'm literally saying all of it.
Wow.
Pregnancy is quite protective towards your bone for like the 9 months.
Yeah.
But then it impacts you incredibly after you give birth. And also the 12 months after giving birth, your body really needs lots of nutrients to go back to where it was before. And I'm not talking about getting your body back, physically speaking, but getting your energy back, getting your healthy body back as it was before you got pregnant. And even then, it has been shown that there is a lot of, I don't know how to explain myself, but there is a lot of GIT disturbances going on. So if your gut, GIT disturbance, so if your gut is impacted, you're not going to be able to absorb all the nutrients, which are vital for your bone health as well. So make sure that you eat lots of calcium-rich foods. It has been shown that calcium supplements, they don't protect the bones as much as we thought they were. Get your vitamin D.
Yeah, I was about to say vitamin
once again. Yeah. Expose yourself to the sun and eat, and try not to do anything that exert your body, especially when sleep deprived.
Yeah. Is that why, just going off a little tiny bit as well, is that why when you're pregnant, your hair gets amazing, doesn't it? Like, I guess the estrogen, like, is that why? But then like when you...
Hormonal related.
Yeah. So, but when you obviously aren't pregnant, postpartum, apparently your hair can like really fall out in clumps and things like that. Is that... I'm assuming the drop, but is that more so if you're not fueling, kind of like HA again, and your hormones are a bit lower? Do you feel like you get that a bit more kind of thing?
Well, it's caused by 3 things. So hair loss can be caused by many, many different things, but normally in the postpartum phase, there are 3 different scenarios that are going on at the same time. The first one is the hormonal imbalance that we talked about before. The second one is the undernourishment. So normally if you breastfeed after giving birth, you suffer from mild anemia that can cause hair loss. Plus postpartum thyroiditis is very common, which can cause hair loss. But something that is really interesting, women tend to lose hair 3 months after giving birth because it's the natural response to the body from trauma. So giving birth is experienced by your body as having the car accident that we were talking about it before.
Yeah.
And 3 months after that, even if you have like an accident or if you lose a loved one, normally you realize that 3 months after that particular event, that's when your hair starts shedding.
Wow.
So it's caused by high level of stress and trauma.
Wow. I did not know that. Cool.
Yeah. So these are all the things that happen.
Pregnancy is so it's a massive journey, isn't it? By the sounds of it, I've never gone through it, but and there's a lot of things to consider to make sure that you are still healthy and can provide for your child as well as yourself is a priority too. Wow, Cool. Is there anything gone? I was gonna say, is there anything else you want to end with?
Yeah, I just want to say that it's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah.
Because I realized that I just underline all the negatives, but obviously being a mom is just the most amazing journey that you can go through. And if you're lucky enough to have also beautiful pregnancy, is just sensational. And even if my pregnancies weren't optimal, I will go through them over and over again, because feeling the baby growing inside your womb is nothing short than miraculous and magical.
Yeah, totally magical. And the bond that you have and that like unconditional love. Yeah, it's amazing.
Just take care of yourself in the meantime. Just make sure
Yeah.
that you nourish yourself, you slow down, and that's it. And then you're gonna be fine.
Yeah, brilliant. Cool. So would you just like to say where the people can find you, even though I'm sure a lot of people are already following you, but just want to give a heads up?
Sure. So my website is nourishedbyclaudia.com. Instagram, Facebook, same thing, Nourished by Claudia. So very easy to find me. And I have a beautiful private Facebook group, which is called the Recover from HA Support.
Mm-hmm.
And there are 500 women which are participating to the Facebook group right now. So if you want to jump in to get a little bit of support or to share your story, everyone is more than welcome to do so.
Fabulous. Thanks so much, Claudia. It's been great talking to you today.
Thanks for having me. It was lovely.